to hover, and it makes a lot of noise. This thing is big as a football field and not make a sound, just come over like that.
Close to the same time, a woman referred to as Witness Fox 6 is driving alone along the same stretch when a strange light illuminates her dashboard. She looks up, and to her amazement, a group of multicolored lights are hovering over her vehicle. The lights in her vehicle dim. The music she's listening to garbles. She watches until each of the lights seem to go out. She drives on, confused, not sure what she's just witnessed. In Yukon, the Braeburn Lodge is situated about halfway between Whitehorse and Carmacks. It's a popular stop for travelers between the two centres, a place where tourists and truckers can satisfy an appetite and swap stories with Steve Watson, the owner-operator of the lodge. He's heard a lot of stories during his time there, but on the evening of December 11th, 1996, he heard of an event that seemed so incredible it would leave him scanning the evening skies around his property for months afterwards.
I was sitting at the table. It was getting later at night, and there's usually people coming back from Whitehorse, and this fella came in, Danny Skookum from Carmacks. And Danny's a good friend of mine, and he's quite excited, and he starts telling me about this object he saw at Little Fox Lake, and he's describing it to me in quite a bit of detail.
As I pulled into Braeburn, there was a lot of people there, and everybody was gathered around. They were all excited, and everybody was talking about it.
A little while later, another car come in, and this other fella, he was quite excited too. They were really excited, and they come in. I think he had some people with him, and he sat down. We all started talking about it, and he starts drawing the exact same thing that Danny had just told me. He drew it, and while he was doing this, a bunch of other people came in from Pelly, and they described the same thing that was being drawn. And it was kind of weird, you know, like they were pretty excited about it, because they all realized that they all saw the same thing.
We can calculate the actual size of the UFO. They did say it was huge. So here's Fox 5's location. You project that angle out to here where Fox 2 and Fox 3 were. Here's a few estimates of the size of the UFO, and based on those drawings, you can see the scale here. It was in the order of 1 or 2 kilometers, maybe just under a kilometer for the smallest estimate here.
Pelly Crossing has a total population of less than 300 people, 80% of whom are First Nation. It's 282 kilometers northwest of Whitehorse on the banks of the Pelly River. Most of the work is in government, providing services such as education and health. The main employer is the Selkirk First Nation. A small part of the economy is hunting, fishing, and trapping, and it was trapping that had Don Trudeau out on the land on December 11th, 1996.
And when I come into that clearing, I noticed out of the corner of my eye a strange light, and I turned and looked at it. It was a green beam, and I thought, oh, a 747 is coming down. And then I looked at it, and it was moving very, very slow. So I turned to get a full view of it, and when I turned, my flashlight beam pointed in that direction, and that thing was 3/4 of a mile to a mile away when I first saw it. And as soon as my flashlight beam turned, that thing went whoosh, and it was about 300 yards away, really, really fast. And when it did that, I covered my light, and then I stood there watching it, and I could no longer look at it without turning and looking at it by turning my head.
Another witness from that community is Jean Van Bibber. Her family has a homestead at Pelly Crossing. She's lived there most of her life.
I was driving back from Whitehorse with my brother, and we were close to Pelly. We were only a few kilometers out of Pelly when he looked over at me and said, "Holy shit, Jean." And he was looking up in the sky, and so I followed his gaze, and I seen sort of a huge clusters of stars all together. And right away I realized that it was a vehicle, and it was traveling at a very slow rate of speed, and I could see it above the hill, and it went just below the Big Dipper in the sky, and it was the same length as the Big Dipper.
Out of the back of it was two lights, two white beams that were down on a 45-degree angle, and out of the front of it was a green beam, and those beams had to be about 4 feet in diameter, both the one in front and the two behind.
You couldn't see the outline of the UFO, but you could see the lights. There was lights on the side of the vehicle going like up and down, and then there was individual lights for several stories.
I couldn't see the shape of the hull. It was dark of the moon. There was no moon, but I could see that a great portion of the sky was blacked out. The stars, I couldn't see the stars, and I watched that for probably 4 to 5 minutes, and very, very slowly it kept going to where it was coming behind me, and it was starting to disappear behind the treetops. So I run across that little clearing, probably about 4 or 5 steps I was across. I turned around and looked, and it was gone.
It looked like something that huge shouldn't be moving in a straight line at that speed, to my mind. Everything was kind of, I was really surprised to see it. I was excited, scared, and all these emotions sort of surfaced at the same time.
Well, at the time it was just awe. This thing could move so silently. There was no motor sound. It was just floating. And in how I understand aeronautics, it can't do that. So I was thinking, geez, you know, this is amazing. And then after that it left and was gone, I thought, geez, why did I cover my light? I might have been able to go up there and visit with those, whatever.
We saw it for, I'd say a few minutes anyway. And then the lights on it went blink, blink, blink in different sections of the spaceship, and then it disappeared. You couldn't see it at all, and you couldn't hear anything.
And then after this happened, I got home probably around 10 o'clock, and they were watching a video. And believe it or not, that video was Independence Day. And they were just watching the scene where the alien ship opened up and shot the blast down. And I come in, you know, all excited. You'll never guess what I saw. And so I relayed my story, and then all of them became very, very frightened. In fact, our grandchildren didn't want to go out for a good week. They didn't want to be out at night.
Like, it was a complete surprise to both my brother and myself. So I asked him, I said, well, what do you think of it? And he said, maybe it's us in the future coming back to see ourselves. But that would be pretty outrageous.
Yet another witness in Pelly Crossing, a teenage boy, also has a close encounter.
He was crossing the bridge and he saw this row of lights coming. He got so scared he laid down on the bridge, and then he at one point he looked up and the object was right above him. He came home and he told his grandma about it, and I talked to his grandma, and she said he was really frightened about it. He was, I think, maybe 16 years old or something like that.
Before the object moved out of the skies over Pelly Crossing, it would be seen by at least 4 other people. About a kilometer outside the village of Carmacks, 4 men are out for a drive. They notice a group of lights to the northwest of them. They stop for a better look. While the men stare at the lights, a family of 5 are sitting in their living room in Carmacks watching television, when through a window they notice a row of lights moving in the distance. The father thinks it may be a jumbo jet, but hears no sound. The children think it's Santa Claus. Then the lights go out, one by one. Further north, in Mayo, another 8 people would report seeing strange lights over their village. No one is sure if there was one craft or several.